I finally caught up with the Banshees of Inisherin. This is one of the films I've desperately wanting to see from last year, and it finally happened, and I'm so really excited to talk about it. Let's jump into it. Hi, my name's Stu and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. As I mentioned, I was really excited to not only see but also talk about the Banshees of Inisherin. Heard a lot about it. It was also obviously a very widely nominated film, you know, on the usual circuit, including the Oscars there. Interestingly, especially after having seen the film, I honestly cannot believe that it did not win any of the categories it was nominated in. I mean, you had so many in there, but there you go. I mean, that's just the game, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but obviously that is still all very subjective. The Banshees of Inisherin, you know, if you're a person who really just pays attention to the Oscars and it's only worthy to watch it if it has won an Oscar, well, I would implore you to change your approach, because that is not a sentiment I share. The Banshees of Inisherin is really an amazing film. Might not be too easy to stomach for everyone. It seems on the surface it might seem a lot more innocent than it actually is. Won't go into much detail there, but we'll talk about the plot, of course we will. But yes, you know, this is really an interesting film. I feel that when it's over, you know, when the screen turns to black, it left me examining just various points of view on morality, but also what is it you want from life, and you know, what is every individual person's purpose. All of these things that I kind of took from this film. Very exciting. But before we get too much into that kind of stuff, let's first talk about what the film is actually about. Now, it is set in Ireland in 1923 during the time of the Irish Civil War. It is set on the island of Inisherin, which is fictional. An interesting tidbit I read up there is actually that Inisherin means the island of Ireland. So that is quite interesting. When you've seen the film, when you get all of the connections, which I didn't at first, I looked online like I usually do once I finish a film and I feel like, you know, I'm missing out on some vital connection that my brain is not making. You know, you learn certain things, and here it's the same thing. And if you've well, just paid more attention than I did, I mean, even while I do pay attention during films, my brain sometimes just doesn't want to make these connections. Anyway, but yes, if not, maybe you'll have looked at that stuff as well. And this little tidbit, this island of Ireland, actually, yeah, is very interesting in the context of the whole film, of what it is trying to portray. So this is a very small rural island, so it's one of these places. It's like a small village. Everyone knows each other, you know. Like I said, 1923, so not modern times. There's no technology, you know, mobile phones and TVs and all these kind of things. So as you can imagine, people are obviously very social and interact with each other. And we are focused on two people in this story. One of them is played by Brendan Gleeson. His name in the film is Colm, his character's name is Colm. And the second person is Colin Farrell. His character's name is Podrick, which is a kind of riff on Patrick, you know, it sounds a bit similar even. The two of them are generally very good friends, but Colm, so Brendan Gleeson's character, decides one day that he does no longer want to be a friend of Podrick's. And yeah, and we see how this develops, how Podrick has difficulties just accepting this decision his friend, or no longer friend, has made, and just the general difficulty that comes with it being such a small community, trying to avoid each other. And it's also a lot about the motivation behind all this. I don't want to actually talk too much about that, because I don't want to spoil it for you. You know, as in why this is happening, or why this decision was made, and what happens afterwards. But just know that we do find out. Now, I will also say, heads up, whether this reasoning is justified or not, you will have to decide for yourself. That is kind of sort of morality, finding yourself aspect of the story that I mentioned sort of in the intro. That's what I mean. But yes, we see how this evolves, and we interact with a few other people on the island. You've got a local policeman and his son Dominic, who is played by Barry Keoghan. Dominic is then sort of an interim, I mean, they know each other obviously from before, but still in this sort of vacuum, he sort of tries to become Podrick's friend a bit more, you know, to give him some support in this difficult situation, gives him advice on what he could do to restore this relationship with Colm. Then Podrick also has a sister. Her name is Siobhan. She is played by Kerry Condon, and she is also obviously aware of this situation and the big friendship. And she has a bit of her own story as well, where you can see that this island life, this small island life, is kind of getting to her, and she wants to break out because it's all just so, you know, just the whole banality of it. And yeah, she just wants more from life. So that is more or less the plot. I know it doesn't sound in any way interesting. I mean, this isn't a huge drama in that sense, so don't expect huge epic events to happen. I mean, I don't necessarily mean in scale, I just mean from intensity, although there are some intense scenes. Sorry, in this film, you know, there's not huge drama evolving, but it's a lot about the characters. And generally, it's also a very funny film, I will say that. I mean, if you are familiar with the Irish people, they have a great sense of humour typically, and this is also so well displayed here. We have at times a very dark sense of humour as well. That is absolutely up my alley, you know, that's definitely for me. But yes, it's not so easy to navigate this story, because ultimately it's about this friendship being, well, you could say, really brutally torn apart. Because it's all very sudden, you know, it's one-sided. And yeah, so you examine these things. Maybe you've had some situation like this in life yourself, that a friendship was just finished from one day to the next, and you were sad about it and tried to figure it out, tried to reconcile, didn't work, or maybe it did work, but it was messy, and all these kind of things. So you think about these kind of topics here with this film a lot. But there are also many other elements. It's, as I said, it's also about finding yourself. Colm, like I said, has a very specific reason for breaking off this friendship, which again I don't want to spoil, but it does make you think about what it is we want in life, of the people that we share that life with, you know, how the relationships we have with them. Should we, I mean, all our lives are limited ultimately, so one important question is, how do you use that time? Is it really that horrible to be a bit more selfish, to say, look, these things are important to me, I want to do certain things? You know, or what is it about? Everyone's got a different philosophy. Mine is that life, I feel, is better if you can share it with other people. Obviously, that can go the other direction as well. You can spread yourself too thin. But I think a good balance is definitely, at least for me, that's the best way to go. Obviously, you've got people who go through life who just don't want anything to do with other people. That is also fine. But like I say, this film, I feel, makes you question that, your own desire, your own want for life. So I found that really cool. I really like that, just this back and forth, because it wasn't that clear cut, you know. And yeah, just this examination of relationships. We also, the Irish Civil War also plays a part in the film. While we don't see any actual fighting, this island is just across from the mainland basically, and at certain times and days when they're on the beach, the people can hear the fighting that goes on, and they obviously talk about that as well. And just as I mean, this is a slight spoiler, but look, I went through the film without realising it, but it does help to know. I mean, the whole story is seemingly also kind of a metaphor on this Irish Civil War, because it's a lot of, like here, infighting, relationships going apart, even although you can't really avoid yourself because you're on this tiny island, you know, so you can't really get anywhere. You can't ultimately get away from the other person. So are you going to reconcile, try and make it work again, you know, or are you going to keep fighting? Is it inevitable to keep fighting? All these kinds of questions. That's what I really, really like this film for. Now, you also absolutely need to talk about the actors. All of them really phenomenal casting, but also acting. I wouldn't even single out a single one of them. All the four that I have named really do an incredible job here. yeah, that's all I can say. If possible, I think they all should have nominated and won. Not particularly because they were better than someone else that actually did win at the Oscars or any other awards, but just they're all really so good. They all bring so much to this film. Weird side note, Brendan Gleeson. Now I know some family members actually watch these videos. They support the channel. Thanks for that. And it's just just looking at it. I mean, this is obviously very specific to me, but Brendan Gleeson, sometimes when the camera is on his face, you know, really close up, I'm like, he looks a lot like my dad, you know, big ears and just the wrinkles in his face. I mean, my dad doesn't have long hair like Brendan Gleeson has in this film, but generally speaking, that was an amusing thought that kind of struck me, especially during the editing process. I thought that was quite funny. Anyway, but yeah, not all of them. Really, really great job. The film also looks beautiful. I mean, you know, Ireland itself, luscious green colours, and it's like Scotland. It's just really beautiful landscapes, and they're shown so well here. The director, who is also the writer, Martin McDonagh, he's done a great job, you know. While you can tell that this island life is boring, at the same time it just looks amazing. You know, just all the shots that you get are just really beautiful, and the story itself wonderfully woven. So, you know, also for the writing and directing, same thing, I feel could easily deserve many, many awards too. So, and the music. Nearly forgot the music. Music should also be mentioned. Now, you would typically expect that it'll be this typical sort of Irish folk fiddle music going on. And while there is some, it's actually integrated into the story as well. So it's not just, oh, it's Ireland, we'd better play some fiddles, eh? No. They're actually integrated into the story, but also the remainder of the whole score is just really beautifully done. It's not typically what you would expect, but it just fits so well, and I kept being drawn to it. And the film to me always stands out when I actually notice the score, because that's not always the case. But I really did here. So yeah. Summarising it, you've got an interesting story that makes you question a lot about yourself, your intentions in life, morals, goals, relationships, all these things which are important. You've got incredible performances, you've got beautiful scenery, great music to go with it, wonderful direction. The dialogue is funny, it's witty, it's really laugh out loud at times, and just, I just love everything around this film, really. So it's an incredibly high recommendation from me. If you are, if you have access to this somewhere, if you're able to watch it, please do, because I feel that in many cases it could really be a film that stays with you for some time, that you're pondering about. Yeah. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about the Banshees of Inisherin if you've seen this film, if you want to see it. I hope you do. Like I say, I definitely recommend that you do so. Are there other films that you know that are similar to this and you feel that are also maybe overlooked at times? Yeah, any of that down in the comments below. I'll thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.